Welcome back, guys, to your first lesson of 7th grade. We are adding integers with the same sign. So we're going to work on adding positive and negative whole numbers. When we add two numbers that have the same sign, so meaning two numbers that are both positive or two numbers that are both negative, when we add them, we must add the numbers like we normally would, and then just keep whatever sign both numbers already have. It's that simple. So there's three examples here. 2 plus 3 is 5. 2 is a positive number. 3 is a positive number. So your answer is going to be a positive number. Negative 2 plus negative 8 is negative 10. So 2 plus 8 is 10. And since they're both negative, the answer is negative 10. And we'll kind of go through it. And I'll show you a bunch of examples of how it works. So how we can kind of show you why the answer is the way it is one way we can use counters. You remember counters. You used them when you were younger. One side's yellow, one side's red. And it helps you to figure out positives and negatives. For our first example, we have a super simple example. It just says add 4 plus 3. Now I know you know the answer to that is 7. Not really worried about the answer. More worried about how we get the answer. So if we were to use counters and we were to add 4 plus 3, we would start with 4 positive counters. Since over here it says that our positive counters are our yellow ones, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 counters, 4 positive counters. I'm adding 3 to that. So what I need to do is I need to do 3 more positive counters. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and so now I'll know my answer by figuring out how many counters I have. Well, I have my 4 original counters, and then I have 3 more. So this is 5 counters, 6 counters, 7 counters. So obviously 4 plus 3 is 7 because I have 7 positive counters when I'm finished. Okay, seems simple, but it kind of works the same way with negative numbers, and we'll look at that in our next example. So this works the same way when we're using negative numbers. Okay, for example, we want to add negative 5 plus negative 3. So we would start with negative 5 counters, or 5 red counters, because that stands for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. 5 red counters stands for negative 5. Okay, I'm adding in 3 more negative counters. So I have to draw in 3 more negative counters. Now, when I add them all together, I have to count how many negative counters I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I add my negative 5 counters to my negative 3 counters, I get 8 negative counters. That means my answer is negative 8. Okay, so I just add them. I add 5 plus 3. And since both the numbers are negative, my answer is also negative. It's that simple. Another way we can kind of show how to add numbers is using a number line. Okay, I'm going to add negative 1 plus negative 8 using my number line. Okay, we have added with a number line before. You may forget, but it's kind of the way you learned when you were younger how to add. One of the first ways you learned how to add. But it also works with negative numbers. Okay, the important part is step 2. So step 1 is the same. When we add, we always look at our first number and we plot our first number, which is negative 1, on our number line. Okay, step 2 is we count forward if we have positive numbers, but we count backwards if we have a negative number. And we have a negative 8. That means we have to move 8 spaces to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We end up at negative 9. Where you end up is your answer. Okay, so my answer to negative 1 plus negative 8 is negative 9. Again, I add 1 plus 8, which is 9, and since they're both negative, my answer is negative. That's the easiest way to remember it. Move on to the Your Turn section, pause the video, and then start it up just to check your answers to make sure that you're correct. So, let's take a look at the answers on your first one, number 7, is negative 8 plus negative 1. I just add 8 plus 1, which I know is 9, but because they're both negative, my answer is negative 9. Number 8, negative 3 plus negative 7. Well, 3 plus 7 is 10. Since both of my numbers are negative, my answer is negative 10. Number 9, negative 48 plus negative 12. 48 plus 12 is 60. Negative and negative gives me a negative 60. Negative 32 plus negative 38. 32 plus 38 is 70. And since they're both negative, the answer is negative 70. 11. 109 plus 191. These are both just positive numbers, so I just add them normally. 191 plus 109 gives me 300. 12, I have negative 40 and negative 105. I add 40 and 105, and I get 145. And since they're both negative, my answer is negative 145. And for number 13, I add negative 150 and negative 1,500. 1,500 plus 150 gives me 1,650. And since they're both negative, I get negative 1,650. And for the last one, I have negative 200 and negative 800. Well, 200 plus 800 is 1,000. Since they're both negative, the answer is negative 1,000. Okay, the simple way to think about it is add your numbers when they have the same sign, and then just keep whatever sign that both those numbers have. So if they're both negative, the answer is negative. If they're both positive, the answer is positive. Okay, if you have any questions, be sure to ask them, leave in the comments, or whatever you need to do.